Well, let's take a look at the latest business news now. We're starting in Turkey, where the finance minister has resigned over the meltdown of the currency.
Erin, Lutfi Elvan was seen as the last remaining voice of orthodox economics in Turkey and in the Erdogan government, I should say. He's been replaced by his deputy Nureddin Nebati, who has defended the president's controversial economic and monetary policies. The value of the Turkish lira has plummeted in recent months as Erdogan has pushed the central bank to repeatedly cut interest rates. Against the dollar, the currency is now worth around half of what it was at the start of the year, and it's plunged again in value since September. That has led to skyrocketing prices for consumers. President Erdogan, however, says that his approach is working.
We have made and are making a politically risky but correct plan for our country and our people. We are promoting investment and production by lowering interest rates rather than pleasing those leeches who make money from high interest rates.
Let's go live to Ankara now and speak to our correspondent Jasper Mortimer. Jasper, is Lutfi Elvan's departure a surprise?
No, it is not. He was known to be unhappy with Erdogan's cutting interest rates when every economist in the country said Erdogan should be raising them. A few weeks ago, Erdogan made a speech which Lutfi Elvan attended, and it was noted that Elvan was looking uncomfortable. And at one point, when the audience burst into applause, Elvan did not clap.
How are people in Turkey viewing this crisis? Because it's something that we know has affected consumers. President Erdogan is convinced, as we heard from him there, that he's making the right decisions for the country's economy. But how do people feel about the decision that he's making, given the effect that it's having on prices?
Well, consumers are very unhappy with 20% inflation, and with the lira losing 44% of its value so far this year, it is forecast that inflation will hit 30% in the new year, and people will be even more unhappy. There have been small demonstrations in Ankara and Istanbul. A man, I think it was in Diyarbakir, took a bullhorn and launched a one-person protest against the price of chickpeas. He said the price had risen twice in a matter of days. The police collared him. Erdogan said in that soundbite you aired just now that it was a politically risky policy. Well, in certain cases, it is downright cruel. Reuters a few days ago ran a story about a woman in Istanbul who has gone from pharmacy to pharmacy looking for drugs to treat her epileptic son. Certain drugs are imported. In other cases, the raw materials for those drugs are imported. And the people who sell those drugs to Turkey are not willing to do so because the price agreed today will not be worth as much in a few weeks' time because of the devaluation of the money. So there's a 16-year-old boy in Istanbul who is running the risk of epileptic seizures because Erdogan refuses to stabilize the currency by raising interest rates. What Erdogan hopes is that by pushing interest rates down, he will generate growth, stimulate exports, factories will expand and employ more people. He will create jobs, and unemployment is more than 4 million at the moment. However, his plan may not work out. Turkey imports more than it exports. Manufacturers will not be able to import the new machines, the new raw materials that they need to expand because the lira has fallen so low. And when elections are held in 18 months' time, voters may not be thinking of the jobs that have been created, but the price rises they have suffered.
OK, Jasper Mortimer in Ankara, thank you very much. Well, let's take a look at what's happening on the stock markets next for you. Fears over the Omicron variant of COVID-19 again weighing on investors' minds. On Wall Street, we saw a slump on US markets after the discovery of the first case of the strain there. The Dow, the S&P 500 and the Nasdaq all seeing sharp falls at the end of trading. In Asia today, a more mixed picture on the markets. Japan's Nikkei finishing down around 2/3% at the end of trading. Not much movement in Shanghai or Hong Kong, but the Kospi and Seoul actually up by 1.5%. There in trading as well. Moving on to some companies news, Disney has elected Susan Arnold as the new chairperson of its board of directors. She's the first woman to hold the role in the entertainment giant's 98-year history. Arnold will replace Bob Iger, who was previously a long-serving chief executive of Disney. London's Heathrow Airport has reopened one of its terminals to cater for travellers coming from countries on the UK's red list. That list now has 10 countries in southern Africa on it over concerns about the Omicron variant. Passengers arriving from these places must spend 11 nights in a quarantine hotel. Here in France, it's estimated that 61 million toys will be bought this Christmas. Parents who are trying to cut costs, though, and waste, are turning to renting rather than buying when it comes to their children's toys. James Facina has the story.
In the Charrier household, Christmas comes once a month.
They generally play with their toys for a month or two, and then they just sit on the shelves gathering dust. So this is a nice idea.
After signing up to the monthly service, the parents can order toys and games to be delivered to their own doorstep or pick them up in a shop. It's a way of treating children while also keeping costs down.
All this would have easily cost €100 to buy. Instead, I spend €13 a month.
Morgane Longo decided to launch the company 3 years ago after realising how quickly children get bored of their new toys.
Toys and games have an average lifetime of 7 months, but they get played with for much less. So we wanted to allow children to play with them and then swap them.
The company has over 1,000 games and toys in stock, which are all carefully checked before being rented out again. They now have 3,000 customers, triple the number from 2 years ago. And economists are noticing a change in mentalities.
The most important part of all of this is being able to play, not to own the toys. And if by subscribing to these services, parents feel they're playing a part in encouraging a more responsible way of buying, then it's a win-win situation.
One study found that 120,000 tonnes of toys are thrown out every year in France. Only a tenth of those are recycled or reused.
Finally, from me, a reconciliation of a long-running dispute between dating apps. The Match Group and its former parent company, IAC, have agreed to pay more than $440 million to settle a lawsuit from the founders of Tinder. They claimed that Match, which owns Tinder, had cheated them out of as much as $2 billion by undervaluing the app in 2017. The settlement bringing to an end that long-running legal dispute between partners. I don't know which relationship analogy we should use. Is this an amicable reconciliation?
Not the greatest match.
Is it a divorce? Not the greatest match. I mean, there are endless ones to choose from.
Well, we'll let the viewers choose. Thank you, Stephen Carroll, with that business update.